Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. Many contributions there, but I just want to thank the Dáil and acknowledge the interest and support of all the members to the second stage of the bill, and I've taken note of the various views expressed, and there are some that I'll try and answer as best as I can, but it was heartening to witness the engagement and the interest and some of the issues and points that were raised, which clearly show the Deputy's collective interest in the film and audiovisual sector in this country. I'll try and respond to some of them. Deputy Niamh Smith isn't here at the moment, but she has indicated her support for the bill, and I note her positive contribution in relation to the industry in general, and she also basically just wants to see gender parity, and we're doing that in relation to this particular industry, hopefully by 2020, in a lot of different measures. So just to mention that. Deputy O'Snuddig is here, broadly welcomes the bill. I acknowledge what you're saying about Section 481, and I appreciate the fact that the Minister of Finance has extended this to 2024. And you spoke in relation to terms and conditions and queried statistics on the numbers employed. Just in relation to the training regime, Screen Skills Ireland is in the main responsible for the skills area and the National Skills Development Agency. And there were recommendations made. I think you mentioned the JOC report. Screen Ireland has put in place a subcommittee of the board to cover training and skills and to act on the recommendations listed in both reports. And through this training advisory subcommittee, Screen Ireland has already commenced work on some of the recommendations, including business skills development, matching skills of production growth, and greater alignment with third level sector and network training. So you also, just to say in relation to employment in general, the Minister Doherty, my colleague, is bringing forward legislation which will improve security and predictability of working hours for employees on insecure contracts. Deputy Richard White-Barrett mentioned that also. The Joint Oireachtas Committee that you mentioned had a number of different recommendations, and I know Screen Ireland are looking at these, and in particular you both mentioned about an industry forum, and that, as you know, is being worked out as well, and we're trying to see how matters can progress on that. And in relation to Section 481 as well, officials from my department are engaging with the Revenue Commissioners about the new arrangements in relation to training issues. And Deputy Burton, who was here, had a number of different queries. Just to say in general that we're putting a significant amount of money into the Irish audiovisual sector, 1.5 billion and 200 million to the Audiovisual Action Plan over the next 10 years. And Screen Ireland have 140 projects for distribution, 700 projects for development. There was many of the deputies brought up employment, Deputy Boyd-Barrett in particular, about how many are employed or not employed. I mentioned earlier this, from the information that we have, there's about 16,930 full-time people working in the industry. There's also an increase of 2 million from last year in the sector in general, from an increase to 20.4 million in this particular budget. Deputy Burton also mentioned the gender pay gap, and obviously there's the gender pay gap information bill which we're looking at. She mentioned Cork. There is, I'll have to look into that to see what support she's particularly speaking about, but I know that there's a lot of regional support in Limerick when you look at Troy Studios and places like that. She did acknowledge the importance of the Irish film industry, which I would echo. She also supports creativity and innovation, which is fine. Deputy Boyd-Barrett, you mentioned mainly in relation to Screen Ireland and the training regime. There have been actually about 60 courses in 2017 that have been run by Screen Skills Ireland, and they provided training for about 1,558 individuals in 2017, and over 25 industry professionals availed of the bursary scheme and trained overseas. And there was also targeted and strategic training for the animation sector, which, as I said earlier, is growing at an exponential rate. And there was also work-based learning initiatives that are being implemented. Disputes and conflicts, we This was looked at by the Oireachtas Committee. They proposed a forum. As you know, Screen Ireland, and I know some of my officials met with you last week, Deputy Boyd Barrett, in relation to this particular bill. And there is an urgency in relation to it in terms of increasing the statutory limit. So from that perspective, it is a technical bill. And I agree with you that it probably should have been done before this, but it wasn't. So it has to be done now, otherwise we're not going to be in a position to do anything. So, and there is time to bring amendments, and if you want to bring amendments, that's obviously at your discretion. But the Deputy will know that my department and Screen Ireland are examining the options, but there are challenges in relation to all of these matters. Overall, I just want to thank the deputies really for bringing up the issues that they want. Screen Ireland, as you know, has a dual mandate to develop Irish filmmaking and audiovisual production talent that can engage audiences both at home and abroad, while maintaining and building the resources, the craft and the skills of the Irish industry by attracting international productions to Ireland. I think most of the deputies would accept that, that we want to ensure that Ireland remains somewhere that's attractive for the film industry, and there's an unprecedented amount of money going into this area over the next number of years, and I think there's a general goodwill to this particular area in Ireland. And I mentioned in my opening remarks some of the Academy Awards and the Globe Awards that we've won right across the spectrum, including animation, which is a new and upgrowing sector. But evidence of the necessity for legislation is borne out by Screen Ireland's activity in recent years, and I outlined that earlier as well. And the film and the television industry is very labour intensive, and by its very nature, any investment in production creates employment. And indeed, every euro invested by Screen Ireland in production produces a multiple return on that investment. So I just want to thank all the deputies for their contribution, and I hope that this bill will enable us to copper fasten Ireland's reputation as a centre of excellence, Count Ceoral. I'm finishing on all matters audiovisual over the next few years, and thank you for your input.
Excellent. Thank you, Minister. Is it